For the week 5 discussion, we are looking at hotel data. And the prompt says a suburban hotel derives its gross income from its hotel and restaurant operations. The owners are interested in the relationship between the number of rooms occupied on a nightly basis and the revenue per day in the restaurant. Okay, so here we have the number of days occupied over here and the income from the restaurant. So what we're trying to figure out is if there's a correlation between the two. If the hotel gets more business because the restaurant gets more business or vice versa. So anytime we're looking at a relationship, that should trigger us to think correlation. Now first though, let's just do a scatter plot. So when we look at the scatter plot, we will first take a look at our X and Y axis. So in this case, our income, that's going to be the Y axis. I like to label these just so we can keep these things straight. So that's the Y variable, and the number of rooms occupied, that's the X variable. All right. Now, if you do your scatter plot straight in Excel, it will automatically assume that this column is the X variable and this one is the Y variable. So you have a couple of options with this. For me personally, I think the easiest is to just copy and paste them into a new couple new columns and move this over. So let me reiterate that. Over here we see the Y is income, the X is occupied. If we just did this as a scatter plot, it's going to swap those so that they're opposite. We don't want that. So I just went ahead and moved them to two different columns. So we have our X variable is occupied because that's what it will pick up first. The Y variable is income. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So now we want to go into insert, come over here to the scatter plot and click the drop down, and then you can click this. So we end up with a pretty basic scatter plot, easy peasy. We want to rename these so that we can say this is the scatter plot. And we also want to add our axes. So let's do that. Let's actually go over here, hit the, let's see, format axis. And actually that's not where it's at. It is over here in add chart element. So if you look up here at design and click on add chart element, you can do axis titles. We'll want both of these. So let's go ahead and add both, axis title. And then we can update the wording. This helps you to keep track of what's happening. So this is the restaurant revenue per day. Let's see if I can spell right. And down here, these are the hotel rooms occupied. Okay, so just eyeballing this, it's hard to see if there's a relationship. So let's add the trend line. If you click on one of the dots and then right click and say add trend line, then you can see the trend line. Now, the idea with the scatter plot is to see how closely the dots are to the line. In this case, you can see that they're congregating a little bit more in the middle than they are on the ends. So maybe there's a relationship, maybe there's not. In this case, it's not very clear to me. I couldn't say definitively what's happening. So let me just clean this up a bit so that it looks nice. And then I also want to do a correlation test. So if we come back over here to our income and rooms occupied and we highlight that, include the names, not the X and Y variables. We don't need that for correlation. Go to data, data analysis, correlation. Okay, and then it's already knows what we're looking for here. We're starting in row 2, yes. And we're looking at columns B and C, yes. And we have our labels in the first row, Yes. So hit OK. All right. Now with this, let's pull it back. All right. So with this, we can see that our R equals 0.43. Now it's hard to know unless you're pretty savvy with statistics, like, is that good or not? So let me explain. Your R value goes from 0 to 1, and it could go 0 to -1. Either way, it depends on the slope of the data. So if I come back over here, I can see that my slope is going up, so it's positive. We have a positive slope. In this case, we see a positive relationship. Okay, so if we look then at the correlation, and I'll just jot in here the strength of the association, now we can see 0.43 is a medium relationship. So it's a medium positive relationship, which makes sense because we see that the trend line's going up, so that's positive. If these dots were closer to the line, I would suspect that our number would be higher than 0.5 because that would make it a large relationship. But in this case, it's a medium relationship. Now, if those dots were further away, perhaps it would be a small relationship. But in this case, we can confidently say this is a medium relationship. There is some type of relationship that basically tells us the more money that the restaurant makes per day, the more hotel rooms will be occupied. All right, so for your assignment, go ahead and take a look at the hotel data, run your scatter plot and your correlation, and then answer the questions in the post.